Right. We are slowly getting some folks in, so we'll begin very shortly, but we're excited to see folks trickling in. So take a minute or a couple of seconds here. And for those that just logged in, feel free to put on the chat, where are you logging in from? We'd like to get to know you more, and we're going to maximize this time together and make this as impactful as possible. So it's going to be jam-packed with a lot of content here. Feel free, if you like, if you're a note taker like myself, to take notes. If not to worry, this will be recorded. So if you miss something, do not worry, put that mind at ease, sit back, and really just take it all in. You're all here to learn more about our software called MyViewboard, and you're going to see just more strategic ways in how to create lessons, right? How do we digitize our experience so that we can start serving our students who are all 21st century learners? So if you are here for that reason, you're in the right spot. So excited for that. All right, we're going to give it a couple of seconds. I see a few folks just trickling in. And again, for those that just trickled in and just are getting situated, feel free to put on the chat. Give us a shout out. Where are you guys logging in from? So I see Kathy Tobin listening from, looks like New Jersey. Wow, Kathy, thank you so much for joining us. If anyone else wants to put in where they're coming from, feel free. Again, this is going to be a very cozy group, which we're excited about. That means you all get to have more one-on-one attention. So this is always awesome. And all the way from Pleasanton, California. All right. Chesterfield, Virginia. Shout outs. Excellent. And now the next question is going to be, how is the weather right now? Are we experiencing summer, or are we still experiencing some kind of doom gloom situation here? All right, I see Connecticut is here. It looks like it's Washington. It's 70s today. All right, in Washington, that's good. Excellent. All right, folks, we're going to kick it off very shortly with some housekeepings. But again, just want to thank you all for joining us for today's webinar. This is the ViewSonic Educator webinar series, and this is the first of 3 of the summer sessions. So once again, we're excited to have you and get a chance to get to know one another. And at the end of the day, we hope that whatever you learned today, you share with us. And there's going to be an opportunity for that a little bit later down the road, which I'll showcase in how you can do that. Now, without further ado, let's go into housekeeping items. So for the purpose of today's webinar, you've got essentially a toolbar at the very bottom. So the chat window is great for comments, but if there's any questions, you want to submit your questions under the Q&A icon. That helps us to receive the question. We're going to go through the PowerPoint or the slides, excuse me, and ultimately we want to answer all questions during this time together. Now, if you have more questions that we don't necessarily make much time to allot for, please still comment to us. We have a platform where you can do that. So please come ready with your questions. We really designed this for you, and it's intended to answer all questions here. All right, folks. Well, without further ado, let me introduce you to Haley Hunt. She is our product manager for ViewSonic. She handles all of our wonderful IFPs, our software that powers our hardware. So without further ado, Haley, take it away.
Hi, everyone. Welcome so much. I'm so glad that you're able to make it out. I know that's a busy summer. We're all getting ready to go on trips or taking a long needed vacation. So I'm just really happy that you were able to have some time to join us today. Like Ruben said, my name is Haley. And so let's get into what we're going to be looking at today. And so for today's agenda, I'm just going to give us a brief introduction to the MyViewboard whiteboard tools. I think many of you are probably used to it, you're familiar with it, but we're going to go a little bit deeper in this presentation. But before we can do that, I do want to get us all acquainted with the different icons, just in case we need that little bit of a refresher. Then we're going to go into lesson planning. This is going to be the meat of our presentation today. And I'm going to just give you some basic tools that you can use for your lesson planning in the future as well. Then, of course, you can't have a great webinar at ViewSonic without having a little bit of a game time. So we're going to have some fun later just to check for understanding and then show you some additional ways that you can use the software to your benefit. And of course, finally, we also have a new ViewSonic educator community, which Ruben will be sharing with all of you today. It's a great chance for all of you to get together, talk about some of the things that you found most useful at the end of the presentation. And so, of course, as Ruben mentioned already, if you have any questions, please feel free to use that Q&A button in the chat. So let's go and look. So congratulations, you are some of the first visitors to our first summer webinar series. Today, we're going to be going through lesson planning specifically, but if this is something you find useful, or even if you would like to just join us again, we will be having 2 more great series coming up. The next one is going to be in July, and we're going to focus all on Magic Box. That's a tool that we're going to see today is very powerful. There's lots of things to learn with it, so we're going to dedicate an entire webinar series just to that. The next one, and we're going to talk about student engagement. So when we do that game today, keep in mind how you can start getting your students engaged with your lessons as well. So let's get started. Getting started, let's look at the introduction to tools, just so we're more familiar with what we're looking at. So again, today you're going to be looking at MyViewboard Whiteboard. And just to get a little more familiar with what we're going to be looking at today, some helpful information to help you figure out where we're going to be going. So first of all, up in the left-hand corner, you're going to see what we call the session name. So this is going to be what your myviewboard.com account was when you signed in. So it's just going to tell you all the great information, and this is going to be a great place to where you can actually go ahead and share the session with your students or even further colleagues as well. And then of course, title bar. This is always a good place to check to make sure that you are sharing the correct presentation. Right now, good thing it does show that I'm doing the right thing, so that's always a good start to the lesson. And then of course, in the top right-hand corner where I'm pointing with the yellow arrow, you're gonna have more things about how you're gonna be able to maximize or minimize the window. This is a great tool for while you're actually preparing your lesson. Now, of course, you cannot enter MyViewboard without, of course, first signing in. So this little icon down here, let me get a little bit of a better arrow. What I'm pointing to in the lower right-hand corner is a little bit of a circle with a person in the middle. That is going to be your sign in and sign out button. So with MyViewboard, as just a refresher, you have the ability to have single sign-on. So you can do things like Microsoft, Google, or even you can use a QR code using our companion app. That is going to give you access to all of the great things that MyViewboard has to offer, such as unlocking some features and also giving you the tools that you need for your lesson, including our cloud integration. So I'll have more on that later as well. Down at the bottom here, the very bottom of my screen, is going to be our main toolbar. The main toolbar is going to be where we're going to be actually gathering our tools to create our lessons and also using our annotation tools as well. So this is where we're going to spend the most of our time today. Again, that is just at the bottom of your screen. If you are following along with MyViewboard on your computer, you might notice that it might be in different locations. And that is because of this 4 angle right here. So now this is actually going to be able to move it across the screen, and you can move it to the left if that's something you're interested in, or you can do the top, left, right, or bottom. I'm going to keep it at the bottom for the purposes of this presentation, but no, you are able to move that around as well. Now on the left side of your screen towards the bottom, you're going to have the floating toolbar. The floating toolbar is something that you've probably already noticed me using to navigate through this presentation. This is going to have great moderator tools such as moving the left and right, so advancing or going back on the slides. I can add pages, so this is great for creating those lessons, and then also viewing everything that we have. So let's just do a quick preview of what we're going to be looking at today. So as you can see, you have all the slides available here, so you can easily navigate instead of having to just use those arrows back and forth. The next one here, down in the left-hand corner, you're going to see a square with a mountain landscape. That's going to be your background management. So I'm going to spend a little more time on that later, but just know that this is how you can change the colors like I have here, or you can also put in different images using ViewSonic Originals. So I'll get to more on that also later. And then of course, participate mode, which is just going to be another tool that you can use to talk to your students and get them to actually interact with the board. But enough of that, let's get into why we're doing this presentation. So MyViewboard Whiteboard is a great tool for annotations. It is just like you would imagine in a classroom with a traditional blackboard, chalkboard, or whiteboard. It's going to give you the ability to write on the screen, and you can also be able to share information, take notes. But if you're not used to using the program, some of your presentations might end up looking something like this. It's not bad, you're getting the information across, but there's probably a little more tools that we can use to help you create more engaging lessons. So you probably are already used to this tool that I've already been using at the bottom, which is the pen tool. Right now I've been using the laser tool. It's great for showing what I need and then disappearing so I don't have to constantly erase. But using that pen tool is going to give me the ability to actually access more than one different type of pen. The default pen is going to be this one, as you see here. So as you're doing this math equation in your classroom, you're probably going to be using this the most often. You're probably going to take notes, write on the lesson, but there's more that we can add to it. So I'm going to show you how we can go from this, very important content-heavy presentation, but to a more engaging one with your students, so that you can actually start adding images, videos, and even some color just to gather and capture their attention at the same time. So that is the purpose of this presentation. So feel free to take notes as we go along, but let's go ahead and get ready to go into part 2. Now here, before we get into it, just so that you are all getting familiar with what we're going to be looking at today, I believe there will be a poll question going out soon. So as you get used to where you are, and you also have this moment, go ahead and answer that poll question, and then we'll go into the actual meat of this presentation. I'll give you all a second. Okay, great. I did see the poll go out. So it looks like everything is available down here as well. I do see a couple questions in the chat, so I do also want to take a moment to go ahead and tell you a little bit more about MyViewboard Whiteboard. So MyViewboard Whiteboard is available on your view boards in your classroom. It's also available on your iPads and also your computers. So the version that I'm running today is Whiteboard for Windows. So I'm actually running this on a Windows Surface Pro, and I'm able to do this all directly from my desktop. Now, if you're in a classroom and you have a view board, you can also open that directly using your view board as well. So as I talk through the presentation, I'm also going to be using certain gestures on my mouse that I have here. So as I'm moving around, I'm just using simple right click, left click to continue to move forward. And also I'll be using a little bit of the scroll wheel. So I'll be showing that off, but just know if you're using this on a view board, you're also able to actually gesture with your hands. So for zooming in and zooming out, you can use your hands. For advancing slides, it's just tapping on the screen. But I just wanted to talk about that too, since I did see a few questions coming in the chat. So let's get into lesson planning. Now with MyViewboard, you do have a few tools that are able to make lesson planning easier. So one of those first tools that I'm talking about today would be ViewSonic Originals. ViewSonic Originals is a great place that our team has spent a lot of time putting together so that you can actually have ready to go lessons, backgrounds, games, and graphics right at your fingertips. So let's go ahead and look at where we can access that. So this is a great tool if you are wanting to start a presentation from scratch, but you aren't quite sure how to go about it. So this is a good starting spot if you are a beginner and new to MyViewboard. So I'm going to go down to that background management that I showed earlier. And when I do that, I'm going to click on this stylized icon of a bird. Because of course, ViewSonic, we have the finches. We do love the finches, which you'll notice throughout my presentation. I think they're very cute. I think they're a good way to just add a little bit of fun to the lesson. So now that we're at ViewSonic Originals, you're able to go ahead and gather different backgrounds. You can even do original content. So this is going to actually be fully approved lesson plans ready to go for you. You're going to have different types of subjects. You're also going to have featured ones like we're seeing here. So in London, they're having Climate Action Week. So we do have a few featured presentations that you can use for your classrooms. But scrolling down, you can see how to access some of these and learn more. So if you're wanting to do direct speech, maybe you're in English class, you can access this and have full ability to look at different types of information and lesson plans that are fully ready to go. Another place that you can go to is backgrounds. So I've actually already been utilizing this throughout my lesson. You'll notice that I've included some images of the finch. I've been using some images of nice summertime with beach balls and water and sandcastles. All of those are things that I can access through the graphics as well. So instead of having to go on the computer and go on the website, which you definitely can, you can have all of this available directly on your view boards. So this is a great place to go. And another place that you can access it, which I'm going to show you by using this Windows toggle button here, which is the 4 windows in blue on the left hand of your main toolbar. By clicking that, I can now navigate to the background of my desktop computer. So now we're actually seeing a live view of the MyViewboard.com. This is another place that you can go to access all the different types of tools available. So if you click on here, it will take you also to ViewSonic Originals. So there's a few different places you can go. So whatever makes sense to you to provide more information, you can go here. Of course, you can choose the subject, change the grade level as well. And all of this information will be able to provide you the best lesson to get started. So now I'm going to go ahead and click on that whiteboard icon to navigate back to the screen. So let's get looking at another way to add more to our lesson plans. So there's a few tools that we might want to be looking at. So before I get too further, I'm going to go ahead and also remind you about the infinite canvas. The infinite canvas is a tool that's going to allow you to move around the entirety of your screen. This is a very unique and also a very great and strong feature that we get to use in MyViewboard Whiteboard. By clicking it, again, I'm using my mouse, but if you're using a viewboard, you can actually just click on the icon using your finger and then go ahead and scroll around. But the way that I'm going to use it while using my desktop is I'm going to right click on the screen and I'm actually going to be able to drag. So again, I'm just using the mouse and now I'm able to move around. So this allows you to keep all of the content on one screen instead of having to flip back and forth between different canvases. So now on this canvas, I can actually go ahead and look at the rest of what we're going to be looking at. So there's 5 main tools that are going to help us today. The first one is Magic Box. Now I'm going to go ahead and point to Magic Box using my laser pen. The Magic Box is this awesome tool at the bottom. So I've had my coworkers refer to this as the Amazon package. You get everything quickly at your fingertips, or even as a Mary Poppins bag where you just open it and there's so much more than you would have expected here. So Magic Box is going to be a very important tool. And like I said, we're going to have an entire series just focused on Magic Box because it's such a powerful tool. The next one is the Infinite Canvas, which I just showed you. So another tool that you can use in Infinite Canvas is actually the scroll wheel or the pinch and pinch out feature with your fingers. So by clicking on the Infinite Canvas tool, I'm actually able to move around like I showed you. But if I'm using the desktop, I can actually use the scroll wheel to zoom out and then in. Now I can move around, I can make different notes, and it's going to allow me to find my spot by again having to click on it. So all of our tools have the ability to have a double click. So by clicking on the hand again, now I can move this highlighted text box around to find where I want to go. But let's say I want to go back to see where I was looking when I first started. Well, you can actually hit this refresh button, which is a circle with an arrow. So this is very helpful if you get lost with the infinite canvas and you cannot find your location again. By clicking it, it's going to just reset you back to the middle of the presentation and I can zoom in, zoom out back to where I want to be. The next one is the pen, which we've already been using a lot. And then also the eraser. There's different tools with the eraser that you can use. I will be glad to show those off in a little bit, but I do also want to show your attention down to shapes. Now notice when you click on the shapes, the original icon will change, and that is just going to reflect the shape they're using in the moment. So if you ever get lost, let's say you navigate to the lines and you click on this arrow and then you click out and then go to do something else. Don't worry, this is still the shape icon and you can still get back to the normal shapes located here. So that's just a helpful tool to remember as we go through and start creating these lessons together. So let's go ahead using, again, the infinite canvas. I'm clicking down and dragging up. Let's look at how we can use this type of lesson planning in your classrooms. So what I've gone ahead and already done is navigate to Magic Box. So earlier I mentioned that in Magic Box, we have something called cloud integrations. Now these cloud integrations are going to hook up to any of your cloud services of choice. So this things can be like OneDrive, which I'm using right now. It can be Dropbox, but it can also be Google Drive and a few others. In this, you're going to be able to access all of those files. So you do not need to be directly on your ViewBoard to be able to access your lesson plans. You can actually plan ahead on your iPad or your Chromebook and actually send it to the cloud drive so you can access it across platforms. This is a great feature of MyViewboard Whiteboard because it's going to allow you to access your files no matter where you are, no matter what device you're on, and it'll be able to work as if it's the same exact type of device, which is great. So once I'm in OneDrive, I'm actually able to go ahead and navigate to some of my files. So I can either go to things like recent, or I can navigate back and go to my files. So what I've gone ahead and done today was I already imported this sight word sheet. So my nieces are in preschool and kindergarten, and the oldest one is starting to go into first grade. This last year, she was doing a lot on sight words. So this is one of the lessons that I thought was very fun and engaging for her to learn a little bit more about reading. So sight words, if you're doing the lower grade levels, is a great way to get your students into reading. But right now, all we have is a worksheet, which is a great starting point, but there's a few things that you can add to enhance the lesson. So navigating to Magic Box, I can add a few more things. So in Magic Box, some things that you'll notice are the toolbar at the top. So this is just different icons you can click on. It's going to navigate you to different things. So I'm going to go ahead and click on image search. Now image search is going to actually give us all education safe images to pop up. So if I put in dog, I can only go ahead, search, enter, and I'm going to get all of these very cute images of a dog. However, my niece's dog is an Australian Shepherd, so I'm going to go ahead and search for that in here because she is just so cute. So I'm going to go ahead and put it in here, and then even if you misspell it, you'll be able to look, see? So if you misspell it, it's going to go ahead and still pull up the correct dog. So this looks very close to their dog, so I'm going to go ahead and double click, and then I can also have it pop in. Another way you can do it is just dragging to the canvas. So now we can just add a little bit of images, and now I have two. We have the original, and then we have a one that we can also manipulate a little bit further. The menu that just opened up here to the right side of the picture is called the adorning menu. In the adorning menu, you're going to get a few extra editing tools. So these are tools that you might not have been able to play with in the past, especially if you were a beginner, but now you are going to see a few of those tools that are going to be helpful for you. So I think I just want to focus on the dog. So I can actually go ahead and click on the crop tool. And by clicking on the crop tool, I can go ahead and crop the image so that I focus only on this very cute Australian Shepherd. So now I'm going to press the check mark, and now it's going to be a cropped image. Another thing that I can do is I can choose to move it around the page by, again, just clicking on it. And again, I do want to also note we have this tool at the bottom called the select tool, which is a dotted box with an arrow in the middle. Most of you are probably already familiar, but just as a reminder, by clicking on it, it's going to allow me to pick up the images. If I was on infinite canvas and go to click on the image, it's just going to move the canvas around. So as a reminder, go to select tool, click on the image, and now that adorning menu will pop up again. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and add it to this lesson here, and I'm going to add it right here. Another very important tool that I've been using across this lesson is this red lock. So this is actually going to lock the image on place so that I can't accidentally move it around. So to show that in action, I have locked this document already here, which is right here, and then I've locked the image of the dog. So now if I go to move it around, I cannot accidentally move it. So this is great for young learners who are interacting with the board so that they're not accidentally moving pieces of your lesson around without you wanting them to do that. But of course, if you ever want to let go, you can just click on the image, click on the icon of the red lock, and get rid of it, and now you can move it around again. So this is a great fun feature that you'll be able to use. So now back at the original, I'm going to go ahead and delete it. So now I have my lesson here. I'm going to lock it in place, but there's another place that we can go to add a few different fun pieces for this lesson. So by clicking on the pen, I'm going to click on it a second time, and I'm going to click on this pen here that looks very similar to the default pen, but it has the letters AI. So by clicking on that, now I can actually draw an image of a dog and have something pop up. So bear with me, I am drawing with my mouse, so it's not going to be the best or cutest, but we're going to try. I can do some eyes. I can do a nose. And now I have all these images pop up. And so now I can actually find an image of a dog that I would want, and I can pull that in. Let's see. This one kind of looks like a French bulldog to me. And then we also have a side view. So why don't we just go ahead and add this dog right here. This looks a little bit closer. So again, you can either drag and drop, or you can double click to add it to the presentation. So now, making sure I'm at the select tool, I'm going to go to the dog and move it over here. Now I can either make it larger or I can make it smaller, and then I can move it around. Something that I can also do is add color to it. So now this paint box, I'll go ahead and show you how I did that. It looks like a paint bucket. So by clicking on that, I'm actually going to be able to create a custom color. So let's go ahead and let's make the dog kind of like a golden brown. I think that's good. So now it fills the shape. So you can either choose to keep the outline as is, or you can also click on the paint palette. By clicking on the paint palette, I can go ahead and change the color again. So why don't we go ahead and find, by using this eyedropper tool, I can click and hover over the color that we just created. And now I'm going to also just change it a little bit. Let's make it a little bit lighter. Let's try that, see what we think. So then you have a dog ready to go, fully imaged how you would like. Now I can add it on the screen as well and go ahead and lock into place just like the image. So now you have already a little bit visually more pleasing type of lesson that you can share with your students. But now that we've gone through this, let's go ahead and look at what it would look like to actually create a lesson from scratch. So by using this menu over here, the side toolbar, I'm going to go ahead and navigate to the next slide. Now you can create your own lesson. So what I just showed you was the adorning menu and all the different types of tools that you can use. Let's go ahead and look at some of the additional features that we can use while using that adorning menu to create our own lessons. So let's say that we are going to be creating a counting activity. And in that counting activity, we want to make sure that everything is locked in place using that lock icon, which I just showed you. But we also want to make it a little bit more fun. So there's a few different ways we can do it. We can first insert a shape. So again, going to the main toolbar, clicking on this square, I can click on it. And now let's choose, again, by double clicking, let's choose a circle. And let's choose this pretty blue color. So now I can create a circle and I can move it around wherever I want. Let's say I also want to fill the color. So I'll go again to the paint bucket. I'll go ahead and move this screen out of the way, use the eyedropper, navigate to the color we just selected, and press OK. And now it's the same shape that I want. So there's a few different tools in the adorning menu that's going to help with a counting activity just like this. So we learned about lock, but there's also something called movable lock. Movable lock is going to allow me to actually keep the size of the shape, but be able to actually move it around without accidentally resizing. So let me go ahead and show you what the difference there is. So I'm going to go ahead, navigate to the select tool, click on the shape again. I'm going to get rid of the movable lock just for the second, but I want to show you the difference. So I'm going to go ahead and copy it just so that we have a second one to look at. When you press copy, it's going to send it to the clipboard, which is this icon to the left of your screen. That looks like a brown clipboard. I can click on that and it's going to paste the object. So now I'm going to have two shapes just to show off the difference between movable lock and regular move. So we have the shapes, they look very identical. But if I'm moving this one, you have this that works perfectly fine. You don't see any grid lines. But if I were to click on it again, now I have those grid lines and the adorning menu will pop up. If I'm moving it around with my fingers, I could accidentally click on this and I'll accidentally resize the shape instead of moving it. On the other hand, when using movable lock, when I click on it and go to drag it around, even if I click on it a second time, you don't see the resizing option. So again, you'll see the resizing in the four corners and in the center with those center dots. But when I click on movable link, you don't have those available. So that is a great tool if you want your manipulatives to be actually moved by your students without resizing, but it's also just a great tool to have whenever available. So that's one of the main tools that we're going to look at. Well, what about when you need to create multiple items? So let's say we go back and navigate to Magic Box and click on an image. Maybe it's a money counting activity. So let's say I look up coin. Images of coins are going to pop up. Let's go ahead and click on George Washington. So again, I'll double click, it will enter into the presentation, and now I have this awesome cutout coin. I'm going to resize it by re-clicking on it, dragging the corners in, and now I have this coin. Now that I have this available, there's many ways that I can add it. Again, I could either choose to copy and then paste, which I showed you already, which is going to paste directly on top of the image we just looked at, or I can do something called drag to copy. Let's go ahead and look at what that would look like. So if I put drag to copy, now you're going to have this little icon that shows up in the corner of the coin. Now that just means that instead of having to navigate to Magic Box, searching coin, and then importing every time, now I can actually just start dragging from that original. It's going to make creating lessons so much faster and easier so that you don't have to continue to navigate and move around. So now you have all these coins ready to go, or you can do the same thing even with those shapes. So I'm going to go ahead and take the drag to copy off of this shape, and I'm going to go to this one and show you how it would work just the same for non-images as well. So now I have all of these circles to use for counting. So it's going to make your lessons a lot quicker when you're actually creating them and a lot more enjoyable. So now what I can do is I can either keep them as is, or I can choose to put that movable lock, just depending on how you want your students to be interacting with these images. So now you have a counting lesson that you pretty much put together very quickly, and now you can move the images around. I'm highlighting here how I actually created this lesson. I put together different types of squares and a table, and I locked those together so that I can't accidentally move that around. Now this is text. You can always use the pen to write, you can change it out, and this is where I wanted to show you the differences with the eraser. So let's say now that you've already put together this great lesson, you've been writing lessons for many days together, and now you don't want to have to redo it every single time. So let's go ahead and show what some of this could look like. So let's say we're writing and we're going to say we want to not only look at the number 5, but we want to look at also creating different types of lines here to show off the different coins that we're going to be moving, and we've been counting. Maybe we've also been keeping track of how many times that we've done the lesson with tally marks. So we've been writing on the lesson, we've been doing a lot of different things, but now I want to prepare the lesson for the next set of students. So now I can navigate to the eraser tool at the bottom of the screen. I can either choose to use the default eraser, which is going to allow me to erase those strokes like a normal eraser would, or I can click on the eraser again using that double click, and I can use something called the lasso tool. So the lasso tool is going to allow me to select the pen mark within the lasso tool, and it will delete it. I can click on the eraser again, and you'll see 2 trash cans. Now the difference between these trash cans is one will just erase pen strokes, and the other one will erase everything. So that includes images, like the coins or the shapes that are not locked. But you'll notice when I go to use that option, anything that has been locked will remain there. So that's a great way to just start your lesson from scratch without actually having to start from scratch with the actual content. So let's look at what erase all strokes will do. By clicking it, it's going to give me an option about if do I want to apply it to all pages or just this page. For the purposes of this lesson, I will just use this page. So now all the pen marks have gone away. So let me go ahead and show you how we did that again. We click on the eraser, we're going to click on it a second time, and then we're going to click clear all strokes. We're going to choose just this page, and only the marks that we've used with the pen will disappear. So let's see how this compares to when using the clear all trash can. So I'm going to go back to the eraser. Again, notice the icon has changed. Don't worry, this is still the eraser that we saw at the beginning. I'm going to click on it a second time, and now I'm going to choose to do clear all. Now this is going to get rid of everything, so let's take a look. So everything that we didn't already lock or have movable lock has been erased, just like we saw here. So this is a great way to add creativity to the lessons without having to restart every single time. So let's get started and look at what we're going to be seeing in part 3. So part 3, go ahead. We went through a lot right now, but it was a lot of fun. So why don't we take this moment to just go ahead and answer another poll question, and then we'll get into the game time for checking our understanding. So let's get to it. Yep, so that next poll question should be going through. So go ahead and take a look and answer that when you get a chance. Okay, looks like we have some people answering already. Awesome. Okay, great. So let's go ahead and get to the game. So now this is something, if you've joined our webinars in the past, this is something that I really like to use just to check our understanding and have a little bit of fun, but also show you how you can put together a very engaging and creative lesson for your students. So what I've gone ahead and did for this game, I've already shown you how to get to ViewSonic Originals, which I use for this awesome background. I also used ViewSonic Originals to grab this very cute finch. And then I've also created my own spinning wheel, and I've imported dice using the magic box. So let me show you how we can get all of those tools and using some of the features that we've learned to get into this game. So first of all, let's go ahead and click on the finch, and I can show you how we can either choose to use movable lock, I can lock it in place, or I can even use drag to copy to put multiple game tokens on the screen. So if I want to use drag to copy, again, I could click on the finch, I can use the select tool, and now I can move the finch around on the screen. And now we have multiple game tokens. Since we're going to be playing as a team, we only need one. So I can either choose to delete it, I can either go back to undo that step, or I can just go ahead and delete using the adorning menu, which I did the first time. So let's go ahead and do that. I'm also going to choose to use the movable lock so that we don't resize our feature. And look at that, I already had one hidden already. So I'm gonna go ahead and take this one off and delete this one. And now we have this finch that's ready to go and ready to play the game. I've also created my own spinner using the shapes, which I can show you how to create. It's gonna be something very simple. I've just created a circle, I put segments in it, and now if I click on the arrow, I'll go ahead and delete that, and I'll show you how I added a spinning arrow. Down at the bottom where the shape tool is, I can click on that, and then I'll navigate to the third one in, which is different arrows. I'm gonna click on this arrow, and I'm also gonna change the color to match the rest of the theme. So by clicking the addition button, you're gonna get back to this menu. And just as a note, if you're using this on your Android, iPad, or Chromebook, this menu here for creating your own color is going to be looking a little different, but you still have this ability to do it. So I'm gonna use the eyedrop tool, and I'm going to click on this color because I want it to match pretty closely. So now I'm going to select that color. And now when I go to create my arrow, it matches. And now we have an arrow ready to go for when we want to make the spinner. To show you where I got the dice, I'm going to go ahead and click back the select tool. We have dice that move, and actually you're going to be able to score points. But to get rid of that, let me just show you where we can go for that. This is a great thing to add to your lessons. You'll go down to the magic box where we've been spending a lot of our time today. We're going to click on that box. And now you're going to see the third icon in is what we call our math tools. So here you're going to have math and science tools like a timer and a stopwatch, but you're also going to have the dice, which are here. So again, you can either double click or drag. I'm going to double click, and now the dice will come in. I personally like to change the opacity of the background so that you can actually see it pretty clearly. You can actually add more dice as well. You can change the color if you wish. So let's see if we use the paint eyedropper. I'm going to use this very pretty purple color. And now we have dice that are in that color as well. For the game, we just need one. So I'm going to use that minus button, and now we have one. And I'm going to drag it over. It keeps wanting to spin. It's very excited for the game, just like I am. I'm going to drop it in that corner. Now, another place that we didn't spend too much time on was in this floating menu here. We've been using it for moderating tools to get through the presentation, but one thing I do want to note is we have this awesome tool here that's going to allow you to switch from a presentation mode, because right now we're in prepare mode. We're actually preparing the lesson, but you can actually switch to presentation mode. By clicking it, it's going to get rid of the name of the file. It's going to get rid of the minimize and maximize button, and it's also going to give us some more minimal tools so that we can actually present the lesson and have people interact. So that's what I'm going to do for this game. I'm going to go ahead and click on that. And now you notice we have a full screen. It's taking up everything on the screen. You can use this on the ViewBoard as well, not just a computer, but now we can actually just focus on the content of the game. So with all that being said, I'm going to move this toolbar a little bit out of the way, and I'm going to make sure my select tool is selected so that I can move our Finch. And let's get started with a couple of questions. Now for this game, I'm going to ask you a few questions. Feel free to put your answers into the chat box. So once I get a correct answer, I'll either choose to spin the wheel or I'll roll the dice and we'll see where we can get the Finch. Our goal is to get the Finch to the finish line by the end of this webinar today. So why we get started, I'm going to go ahead and open up my file, and let's go ahead and answer a couple questions. Okay. First one. What tool should you use to import things like a file or an image? Go ahead and put your answers in the chat. Awesome. We already have a correct answer. That was so quick. Magic box. So let's go ahead and roll a dice by just clicking it. Oh, great. That's 5. That's a lot. So I'm going to move the Finch now. So we're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Awesome. So we've already made great progress. And note, as I move the Finch, it hasn't resized or given me the option. But if you don't want to do that, we can go back to prepare mode. I can get rid of this tool just by clicking on it, just as simple as that. So let's go back and play the game. Okay, now, another question. Can you save files to Google Drive? So you spent a lot of time making this lesson, you put a lot of pictures and videos in it, but can you also save it to your cloud storage? Let's see. Yep, great, thank you. So now we can click on the arrow and another tool in the adorning menu. Like I said, there's a lot of tools there. We're going to click it and it's going to spin and it's going to land on our number. Let's see. 5. Wow. Okay. 5 again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now we're going to go to a next question. Where can I find ViewSonic Originals? Now there's 2 answers for this. I'll accept either one. Let's go ahead and see those answers in the chat box. Okay, we got on the website. We got more specifically MyViewboard.com. Perfect. Yep, those are all great options. Another way you can access it is by going to that background management in the bottom left-hand corner. Okay, let's go ahead and do the dice. 2. Okay, 1, 2. Let's go. That's great. True or false? You cannot change the color of a shape after it's been created. True or false? False. Yep, that's correct. And I've noticed that I put the spinner on the wrong spot. So let me show you how easily it is to fix that. I'm gonna go back to prepare mode. I'm gonna make sure I have the select tool highlighted. I'm gonna click on that arrow here, I'm gonna move it over to the middle so that when I spin it, it stays in the middle. I think that's a lot better. So these tools, again, like I've been showing you this whole time, are very easy to edit and make it best for how you want to use it. So let's go ahead and do another question. We'll make sure that spinning wheel is ready to go. Next question. Will using the erase all strokes trash can erase my imported document, or in other words, my locked document or image? Yes or no? No. Yeah, great. You guys nailed that one. That one's good. I'm glad that made it easy. So now I have, as you can see, to make this presentation, I've used a lot of shapes to lock it. When I erase things like that, it's not going to erase it, so that I keep and make sure that my presentation is the way that I want it. So I'm going to click on the arrow here, and we're going to spin it using that spin selected objects. And let's see what number we land on to see how far the finch will go. 5. Wow, that number has been coming up a lot more today. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We are so close to the finish line. Let's see how many more questions we could get. Okay, I copied a picture on my canvas. How do I paste it? Clipboard. Perfect. Roll the dice, and 3. 1, 2, 3. Okay, we are so close to the finish line, so let's do one more question. What is one thing you learned today, if anything? Feel free to put anything in the chat that you learned today. Spinning arrow. You can color the AI pictures. Awesome. Someone learned about ViewSonic Originals today. Fantastic. Someone said they became more familiar with all the tools. That's great. I'm glad to hear that. This is the whole point of these webinars, but let's go ahead and send the finch back home. So let's just see what number we land on. And I'm glad that we were able to look for our understanding and send the finch all the way home. So good job, everyone. We got through it. I hope you learned a lot. It sounds like, based on your answers, that we've got some good information in. Now, with the rest of the time, I do want to go ahead and send it back to Ruben, because he does have some more information about how you can get more used to some tips and tricks, and also sharing some lessons with your friends and coworkers. So I'm gonna give it back to Ruben. Here you go, Ruben.
Thank you, Haley, and thank you so much for that wonderful presentation. Chat, if you don't mind just giving a round of applause through the chat. There's an emoticon there. Just throw some noise there. That was really awesome. Well, we're going to segue in just this quick second, and I'll get a chance to share a little bit about our community, which we have called ViewSonic Educator Community. And I'm going to put in the chat right now the actual link for everybody to visit, so everybody can learn more. And before we go any further, there is one question, if you don't mind, Haley, to answer. It looks like the question is, where did you get the game background from, or did you make it?
Yeah, so I actually got the background from ViewSonic Originals, and then let me go back and show you what I added to it. So the things that I added here was just grabbing that finch also from ViewSonic Originals, and then adding the game pieces. So the dice from Magic Box, and then also from creating that spinning wheel. And then I just used the text button down here, which we didn't spend too much time on today, but that's what I used to create the game time and then also the instructions. So this is already available in ViewSonic Originals. If you want to, feel free to copy this type of template. Feel free, I would love to see it. So that's maybe something that you can share with us in the community part that Ruben's going to be sharing.
Yeah, right on. Perfect segue for that. Thank you. And thank you for the questions that you may have. Again, feel free to put them on the Q&A here. And again, we have a platform now dedicated to you all, so that essentially any questions or things that you want to share, you'll get a chance to do that. Now, let me go ahead and share my screen and navigate you all over to my window. And that link that I posted on the chat, if everybody wants to take a quick second, go ahead and click on that link. It's going to redirect you here, and we'll follow along. We'll do this together. So give a couple of seconds here so everybody gets adjusted. And again, if you miss anything, do not worry. There is a recording of this, and we'll post it into our platform so that you can revisit later. And once we're all here, essentially this is our ViewSonic educator community landing page. So you'll get a chance to see a promo video that explains it. I won't play it. I'll be your promo video and I'll explain it all. But essentially what you'd like to do is click on the Join Now button. So if you click here, I'll redirect you to this page. Now, if you have not signed up for MyViewboard, again, this is all free to sign up. There is a single sign-on option there. And I encourage you to use the option, whether it's your school email or if it's your personal, you get to choose and pick. So you get to pick that journey. Now, if you already have a sign up, then you're going to click on the sign in right here in the upper right. I know it's kind of small. It's next to the try now. Okay. So once you've signed up, and this might take a couple of seconds or so, but again, I'll move us forward just so I can share with you the platform. Once you've signed up, essentially, it's going to take you to this window here, right, to our dashboard, and you're going to see various different apps, if you will. And so the one that we're going to focus on today, we're going to hone in, is our community. So if we were to click on the community, it's going to redirect you to this landing page here. Now it's going to take you straight to the home, which is in the upper left here, and then you're going to see a whole different options of navigation trees. I'm not going to focus on all of them today just for the sake of time, but I'm going to focus on a key couple of them so that way you at least have some understanding. So in the very beginning, of course, once you've landed on the community, this is the platform that essentially allows you to interact and network with teachers globally. ViewSonic is a global organization, so ultimately the learning doesn't stop here in the US only. It goes way beyond that. And so the great thing about the community platform is that you get a chance to, yes, build your profile, start with the hello, and essentially share a little bit about yourself, which is always great so that we know who's who in the room ultimately. Now, the learning centers, the lesson hubs, all the great features you just saw that Haley just posted or just shared with us, essentially you're going to be able to find this here. You're going to find a plethora of resources. So highly recommend it. So that way, if you're having to check on different sites, there's only one place to check, and that's the community. And ultimately, too, you get to interact with folks that are just like-minded like yourself, or either teaching different subject matters, and you essentially get a chance to learn a little bit more insight as well. So I'm going to take you down to our forum, and in this forum, I'm going to select the USA and Canada forum. So I'm going to click on that. You'll get a chance to see all sorts of different events that we post. We just came back from ISTE, so if anybody was at ISTE, this was the same education team. Hopefully you gave us a shout out. And so ultimately, this is a place for you to find out what is the latest, greatest events that we're essentially going to be featuring. And we do a lot of webinars like this one, right? This is our first one that we kicked off. And you'll be able to see all of our banner posts, if you will, throughout our community postings, if you will. So if you scroll a little bit down, there's an opportunity to share lesson plans, discussions, things that essentially stimulate what it is that you'd like to share in the world of ed tech, right? In the world of education, we want to understand what it is that you're having curious conversations about, or conversations that we should be stimulating forward. The great thing about what we're doing here together is that ultimately we don't do this alone. We need to hear from your voices, right? If there is something that we should be looking into, well, great, there is a spot for that, which is our wish list. So if we were to click on the wish list, your wish list becomes our to-do list, right? So we essentially listen to you and to your needs. And so hopefully, if there's something that you've noticed that you come across that, hey, it would be great if we had blank, great, put it in there in the wish list. We want it to be heard. We don't want it to be missed. And this is where we get a chance to, again, crosswalk with you, walk alongside with you to make this whole experience worthwhile. So with that being said, I am going to do something because it's Friday. And for some of you all, you guys are ready to head on to the weekend. and get into the 4th of July spirit. So I have a little bit of an assignment for everybody to do. If you see here, there is a banner here with our webinar, and you liked what Haley did today, and you want to share some comments and feedback, something that you've learned, similar to what you did in the chat earlier, I encourage you all, as you sign in or sign up, to go to our community and post a comment right here. What are your thoughts? You would just click on that banner like I just did, and essentially you would put your thoughts. And for those who put their thoughts, I will pick one lucky winner today in a matter of hours, if you will, for someone to win a $25 Amazon gift card. So probability obviously raises if there's little participation. So if you want to be one of that first, go ahead and do that. I encourage it. So all you need to do is just give us your thoughts. What did you think about today's webinar? How can we stimulate more thought? And for those that asked earlier at the very top of the hour, we have more webinars coming up every month. And we're going to unpack a little bit more of the magic box, as you all heard and seen. There is more to do. So we just scratched the surface. So there'll be more to explore. So again, it's the continuing and building your knowledge blocks, if you will. And last but not least, but we're going to obviously talk about student engagement too, especially as we near towards the beginning of the school year. So I hope everybody enjoyed today's session. Please don't forget to leave a comment in our community post. You're going to hear a lot more from us when it comes to our community. Everyone here has logged in some way, shape, or form, so we consider you a big part of our community. And truth be told, none of this is possible without your support. So if there's no other further questions, again, just wanted to give that friendly reminder to join the community platform. And yeah, we will see you on the next webinar. Thank you again, everyone.